I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Teleios. Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study on the book of Galatians. Such a rich study, telling us so much about the foundations of our salvation, particularly from the middle of chapter 2 to 3 and 4, and so much also about how to live the Christian life. Very typical of the author Paul, the Apostle Paul, breaking down the book into two sections: Christology, the study of Christ, in the first half, and the second half over the Christian walk, much like he does in Colossians and Ephesians as well, and other books such as Romans and also Hebrews, if he is indeed the author there, as many suspect that he is. We're in chapter 3 right now, going through a very rich section on Abraham and the covenant with him as a foundation of our faith to salvation, the foundation of our salvation. This is also covered in Romans 4 and in Hebrews 7. We're in a section talking about the law then, because he emphasizes at the first part of the chapter that the readers in Galatia should continue in their faith in their Christian walk, because they begin by their salvation and faith based in the Abrahamic covenant. They shouldn't walk according to the Jewish covenant with Moses, because it's essentially dead. When Christ came, as we know, it was no longer useful, Romans 10:4, and also explained in Hebrews 7. So he comes to verse 21. Then was the law against the promises of God? May it never be, he says. He asks a rhetorical question. He said the law concluded and kept people under sin until faith came in Jesus Christ to salvation. So we get to 23 today, and he further explains that before faith came. Now this again refers back to verse 22 and forward to verse 24. What he means here by faith is faith to Christ in salvation after he came and died and resurrected, so that by faith alone, we, in his death and resurrection, we could gain eternal life. So taking the verse in context, faith was abundant in the Old Testament, as Genesis 15:6 says, Habakkuk 2:4, as Hebrews 11 explains the whole long chapter there. So they were kept under the law, and the word kept here doesn't have a negative meaning. It's really means guarded in the original Greek, as in a military installation. We were sort of guarded in a fort under the law, shut up until afterwards faith, which would be revealed, again, the faith unto Jesus Christ for salvation. The word here for reveal is interesting. It's in the Greek where we get the word apocalypse. Apocalypse doesn't mean a destructive battle, as many people would view it today, but it was really just a general word for revelation. It's used multiple times in the New Testament, and when it's used in the epistles, as it most frequently is by Paul, the Apostle Paul, in his letters, it means something revealed in relationship to the coming of Christ, either the first or second coming. So it says that one of the purposes of the law in keeping us shut up was to act in verse 24 as a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ. The law taught about Messiah to the Jews and to the world by prophecy, by types, by imagery in the tabernacle and the priest's clothing, which was in abundance, that people could learn about the coming Messiah and be able to identify him and what he would be like. Again, that we'd be justified, otherwise made righteous, forgiven. The word here also, Teleios, has a legal meaning of legally being found innocent and justified by our faith. Now, interestingly, we also know from Romans 3 that by the law came the knowledge of sin, and in Romans 5 that sin was made to abound by the law because people knew they were sinning and it was held against them, as it says in Romans 5, that grace might abound even more. So it's a way to show even more of God's mercy by indicating to us all the sins that we were doing. But here it says specifically it was our schoolmaster unto Christ. Okay, so what have we said? Well, that again, we've reviewed that the law is not apart from God. It was his purpose to the Jews to keep them guarded to the time that Christ came, that they could be finally saved, and that it was a schoolmaster to the coming Messiah, so they would know they were to believe by faith and in whom they were to believe as well. All right, thank you for joining me today. We'll continue on with verse 25 next time. Please join me then.